Guys, it is official. Okay. As I'm recording this, and if I get it out to you guys on time, Avatar Fire and Ash is available to see in theaters starting tonight. Which means that the Avengers Doomsday trailer that is exclusively playing in front of the Avatar Fire and Ash movie will also be available for you to see in theaters starting tonight. As such, Disney can only keep a lid on this thing for so long. You know, it's already been leaked. There's been rumors flying around that Steve Rogers was going to come back as Captain America. I heard rumors on Twitter weeks ago saying that like the main dynamic of Doomsday was going to be Steve versus Victor. I didn't believe that, but it's been made official. We now know that Chris Evans is returning as Steve Rogers in Avengers Doomsday. Let's talk about what that means. Because honestly, I'm not too terribly happy about that. I think it's indicative of one of my biggest problems with Marvel right now. Now, you ask your average person when the last time that the MCU was consistent good, they'll say that, like, it started going downhill around Endgame. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that there's plenty of bad movies before Endgame. Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor the Dark World, in my opinion, Thor Ragnarok. There's plenty of bad movies before Endgame, and there's plenty of bad movies after, and a lot of mediocre shows. The problem is that there's so much content that's come after Endgame, but none of it has really mattered. Like, we're in what they call the multiverse saga, but if you really look at what has dealt with the multiverse, it's Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange 2, What If, Loki, the post-credit scene of the Marvels. That's not it, is it? It's all I can think of. You want to count Marvel Zombies because that takes place in an alternate universe? You know? And like the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts, I guess. And the post-credit scene of Captain America 4, but like, you know, the ratio of projects that have anything to do with this grand plan towards the multiverse. Oh, I guess you could say Ant-Man 3, but even then, it's really mostly in the post-credit scene, and they're pivoting from Kang to Doctor Doom at the last second because the whole Kang thing wasn't exactly working out, even before Jonathan Majors decided to put his hands on his girlfriend. But I think that what we have with Avengers Doomsday is a pivot and a last-ditch effort to snatch that relevance back. Oh, Deadpool and Wolverine is about the... I completely forgot about that. Sorry about that. Anyway, like, what do you gain from bringing Robert Downey Jr. back after Iron Man died, other than trying to bring people back? What do you gain from bringing back these X-Men actors from 20 plus years ago, other than trying to get those old fans interested again? And what do when your most recent Captain America movie didn't work out the way you wanted it to? You bring back the old guy. Funny that I should call him the old guy, because for me, the whole return of Steve Rogers thing, and obviously this is pretty speculative, I haven't even seen the teaser yet, I won't for a little while, but they committed to ending Steve's story. He had his happy ending, he went back in time, lived a happy life with the woman that he loved, grew old, became Joe Biden, basically, and he gave the shield to Sam. Marvel Comics made Sam Captain America in, I want to say, 2013 or 14. Not super long ago. But it's been over a decade at this point. People were upset about it then too. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't pivot. They committed to Sam Wilson being Captain America. Now, Steve Rogers did return, that is true. But movies are different than comic books. In the comics, Steve and Sam learn to coexist as Captain America, and they're both Captain America at the same time. And there's 50 Captain Americas. There's Captain America for every single state. It's different. You can't really make that work in a movie. The key difference between comic book characters and movie characters, even if they are based on comics, is time. Steve Rogers can be physically 30 years old for 50 years in the comics. Chris Evans is already in his 40s. Robert Downey Jr. is in his 60s. Like, these guys are going to continue to get older. They can't play the roles for Hugh Jackman is pushing 60. James Marsden is probably in his 50s as well, The point at a certain... You have to pass it down to the next guy at a certain point. I mean, you could put a 75-year-old man back in his costume like they did Michael Keaton Batman, but even that does not always necessarily work. I think that a huge portion of the draw towards the Flash film was probably Michael Keaton returning as Batman. But even then, wasn't really good enough, was it? Because that movie was still a flop. It reeks of desperation, and I think that people can see that. What they're counting on is your average person who, if we're being honest, your average moviegoer doesn't know about any of this. They don't know how much money Robert Downey Jr. is getting paid to play Doom. They don't know that Doom doesn't take his mask off. They don't know that Doom from that Latveria. They don't know all this stuff, but we do. But they're counting on the average person seeing that Robert Downey Jr. is back in Avengers in a metal suit and being like, cool, I'm there. That just doesn't work for me. And this is something I've said about Doomsday before. I think that they've done Anthony Mackie a huge disservice within the MCU. I'll say the same about Sebastian Stan. I think that Bucky has been left in limbo since Civil War. His character starts and ends in the same place every time you've seen him since. And it's really frustrating. But that's neither here nor there. Sam Wilson was made Captain America 2019. He got a show that was then called Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Came out 2 years later, which is about him graduating to being Captain America. Now, they changed Bucky's name within the MCU to White Wolf, but not anymore. They still call him the Winter Soldier. That's really disappointing. Anyway, they then gave Sam a Captain America movie 4 years later. And one thing that you'll hear a lot online, or even just general discussion in regards to criticisms of the MCU right now, is that characters kind of just keep popping in and out with no real rhyme or reason. You don't know who's going to pop up next. You don't know when you're going to see them again, because they're not necessarily stitching these stories together in a way where the goal is clear. At the end of Iron Man 1, Nick Fury mentions the Avengers initiative. At the end of The Incredible Hulk, Tony Stark talks to General Ross about putting together a team. That post-credit scene doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it was retconned to be that Fury wanted Blonsky for the Avengers initiative. S.H.I.E.L.D. thought it was a bad idea, so they sent Tony to pretty much tank the deal. That's a retcon, but still. At the end of Iron Man 2, you see Thor's hammer. At the end of Thor, you see Fury and Loki interacting with the Tesseract from a certain point of view. And at the end of Captain America, the First Avenger, you have a trailer for the Avengers. It's pretty, it's right there. And then at the end of the Avengers, there's a post-credit scene for Thanos. So you know right away where we're heading. See Thanos again in Guardians of the Galaxy. See him again in the post-credit scene for Age of Ultron. Ultron did come out of nowhere, but the whole thing, that movie is about setting up the stones. Guardians of the Galaxy plays that same role. We start seeing stones left and right now because Thanos is coming. We need to introduce these stones. By the time Infinity War comes out, we know where 5 of the 6 of them are. Doom has only appeared in a post-credit scene for Fantastic Four. And then next year there's a movie all about him. And Doom doesn't say anything, you just see his mask. It's not nearly the same. You can't jump into something like this because obviously the plan that they have with Secret Wars is to adapt the 2015 Hickman run of Secret Wars where it's about God Emperor Doom. You can't just jump into that. What you would have to do is make Doom the main character of Doomsday and establish what his motivations are, establish why he does what he does, what he wants, and who he is. Because this is probably gonna be a lot of people's first time ever seeing Doctor Doom in a movie. Got a lot of work to do. Thanos, we already knew what he wanted. We already knew what he wanted. Doom, not so much. You can speculate based on Secret Wars, but like, it's just not the same. We don't even have a Beyonder yet. They probably have to introduce the Beyonder in this movie as well. I feel like it's just, I don't know. I clearly have not been super optimistic about like how well this movie is going to turn out. I think that it shows a lack of spine on Marvel's part to backpedal off of Sam right away. Because you could say, oh, well, Captain America Brave New World didn't do super well in theaters. That's probably their fault. One, it wasn't marketed super well. Two, it's littered with obvious visual reshoots. You can tell, just based on the lack of continuity of someone's hairstyle from one, that movie was reshot 100 times. You know? And it's just like treat Captain America with the same urgency that you used to treat him with 10 years ago. You saw Steve Rogers in 2011, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18, and 19. Sam Wilson as Captain America, you see 2025. Where's the urgency? Where's the haste? Where's the direction? Where's the clear, like, communication? Shang-Chi had a movie that came out 4 years ago. We've seen the Red Guardian and the Black Widow more often. No, we've seen Daredevil more often. I just don't understand. Why are, like... And the problem, and this is something that I said about them bringing back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, it doesn't help fans to let go. Because Hugh Jackman is going to age out of the role of Wolverine sooner rather than later. I'm sure that the cycles that they put him on to get in shape aren't good for his body at his... You need to move on to either somebody else to play Logan, or maybe we shift towards Laura as the main Wolverine, because Daphne Keene's what, like 20, 21? She can do it for the next 20 years, you know? But we don't want to upset people by putting, you know, characters that are already in the comics in the movies because they're going to call it the MCU and whatever. Just don't be cowards. Don't be cowards. You committed to Black Panther. What's the difference? But then they were cowardly about Black Panther as well because they should have recast T'Challa, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying about Wolverine is that when you put him back in front of fans, you refresh their memory on him. You create a new lasting impression, and it makes it harder for fans to let go and accept the possibility of somebody else coming and filling that role. And we're doing the same thing with Steve Rogers as Captain America. Because Sam Wilson's not exactly a recast of Captain America. There is Steve Rogers, there is Sam Wilson. They're both completely unique characters from each other. But they both embody the values of loyalty, bravery, integrity, honor. That's what makes Captain America. So it's not a recast. It's not a black guy playing Steve Rogers. Sam and Steve are different, and they have different flaws. It's interesting that Sam doesn't have powers, but he does have an indestructible suit. Steve doesn't have an indestructible suit, but he does have powers. It's like there's an interesting difference in delineation between the two of them. You know, Sam had to train with that shield to learn how to throw it properly, because Steve was able to just do it pretty much from the first time that he picked it up, because he's super strong. But when you bring Steve Rogers back, after 7 years, mind you, after 7 years, pretty much the passage of time between Captain America, the first Avenger, releasing and Avengers Infinity War releasing is the passage of time between Avengers Endgame and Avengers Doomsday. 7 years later, Steve Rogers is back. How are you going to expect fans to be able to let go of him emotionally and embrace Sam if they wouldn't even do it when there was nothing to compare him to or no other, you know, alternative option? It was just Sam, and they still wouldn't embrace him. So I'm left with the idea that they're probably going to drop Sam as Captain America. And Steve will be the main Captain America in Doomsday and Secret Wars, and that's really upsetting. Especially because we're all pretty sure, I don't know if it's actually been outright confirmed, but the general consensus online is that Secret Wars will be the finale of what we know as the MCU. They're definitely heading into a reboot. So there's going to be a new Steve Rogers, a new Tony Stark, a new Thor Odinson, a new Bruce Banner, a new everybody. And so it sucks to kind of go out on that note where Sam didn't really get to shine as Captain America because Marvel wouldn't let him. They just wouldn't give him the opportunity. I don't know. That's more negativity from me in regards to Avengers Doomsday. I'm sure that a lot of you guys out there are really excited about that news. Let me know in the comments if you are looking forward to seeing Steve. Obviously, I love Steve, but I also love Sam. I want Sam to get his time in the spotlight like Steve. Steve had a trilogy to himself and 4 Avengers. Sam shared a TV show with Bucky. He's had 1 movie. You know, let him do his thing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Doomsday in general. Which character you're most excited to see return, and what character you're hoping gets done better in a rebooted MCU than they did the first time around. To me, that's absolutely the Hulk / Thor. I think both of them have been done so dirty by the MCU, but especially the Hulk because Thor's got 3 more movies than Hulk does. Hulk just kind of pops up in other people's stuff. There hasn't been a solo Hulk movie in almost 20 years. That's just outrageous. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you right now. What does Bill O'Reilly say? Well, that's tomorrow, and that's it for us today. See you later.